You know, I went to the IU game, and I didn't even have to throw hands with anybody. Dusty May joins us, FAU. We talked to him earlier, and now I want to talk to him at the end of the season. We're going to take a swing again with Dusty May. Dusty May, the head coach of Florida Atlantic, he is in the running for every job that comes open, but I think he likes his. We'll talk to him, but let's get right into it. The world of sports is out of its ever-loving mind. I don't know if you saw this, but the Detroit basketball Pistons in Detroit have a general manager named Troy Weaver. By all accounts, Troy Weaver is a decent human being. By all accounts, Troy Weaver is the kind of guy that you can get down with. But Troy Weaver threatened to kick a heckler's ass. That's right. That's what we're doing in these parts. Let's see from the GM of the Detroit Pistons. Don't tell Troy Weaver he sucks at his job, baby, because Troy Weaver will have your ass out of there. Look, you got to understand something. Troy Weaver does suck at his job. He does. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Troy Weaver sucks at his job. I don't know whether he was a DEI hire. I don't know whether he deserved the job that he had. Who the hell knows and who the hell cares? But right now, the Detroit basketball Pistons are 10-53. They had a 28-game losing streak earlier in the year. Now, I'm going to say that again. A 28-game losing streak earlier in the year. Why are you kicking a fan out? That's telling the truth. I mean, what the hell? I mean, this guy, Troy Weaver, was an assistant at Pittsburgh, was an assistant at New Mexico, was an assistant at Syracuse. He was an AAU coach. Oh, and he gives his AAU record. I coached AAU for 1,000,000 years. I got no idea what my AAU record is. Right here. He served as coach of the assault. He was 85-17. Really? Well, that certainly should make him, after being a head scout and assistant general manager, that certainly should make Troy Weaver the preeminent general manager of the Detroit and the NBA. I mean, let's not even say he should be the general manager. Look at this guy's resume here and tell me. So he was a co-founder of the DC Assault, an assistant coach with the Pittsburgh Panthers, the New Mexico Lobos, Syracuse. He won a national championship. He had Carmelo. Well, there you go. He was a head scout, director of player personnel. If you ever want to know, if you ever want to see a DEI hire, Troy Weaver's the man. Troy Weaver hadn't done nothing. Holy hell. So Troy Weaver decided he's going to yell and scream. And you know what? The fan ain't wrong. I mean, if I had to side with a general manager of a 10-672 team or a paying customer, I got to tell you, I'd probably side with the paying customer. I mean, everybody talks about how tough Detroit is. Everybody talks about, I know Detroit is one of the biggest group of pussies in America. If you ever want a pussy basketball player, get him out of Detroit. Worse, if you ever want to hire an assistant coach, get a high school coach from Detroit. Biggest backstabbing D-bags in America. Detroit lost his way when Isaiah and the great Ricky Mahorn. I love both of those guys. I'm not going to lie. Ricky Mahorn is one of the nicest human beings ever. Rodman, Sally, Dumars. The guy that backs up Troy Weaver has a worse resume. His name is George David. I hired George David. I did. I hired George David as a manager at Indiana. And George David was going to go work at a Shoney's. His family owned some kind of Shoney's. Well, George David somehow, some way, well, I know how. Coach Knight and I got him a job with the Detroit Pistons as an intern. And he worked his way to be Joe Dumars' number one right-hand man. Well, George left, tried to be an agent, tried to be all kind of stuff, and then came back to the Detroit Pistons. So you got a guy you got a guy that was the vice president of basketball operations for the Wasserman Media Group. I think Wasserman might represent me. I can't remember who the hell represents me. I've had such bad representation. I got this job myself. Anyway, so George is there. This guy Weaver's there. And they're 10-672. Any surprise? But the world has gone insane. Did you know the women's coach at Utah State, got fired from the end of her game till she went to the press conference? I just saw this today. Everybody's mad in the world. Duke fans, you suck. But you've always sucked, Duke fans. Like, you've always been little bitches. You have. You stand, you get in people's faces, you do all this kind of stuff, but you suck. All of a sudden, North Carolina guys throw it back at you, and what are you doing? You little future accountants, you little future D-bags, what do? Oh, man, you lose your mind. We'll get into that coming up here in a minute. But the world has gone insane. Yesterday at Indiana, the head coach of Indiana University men's basketball, Mike Woodson, he was a really good player, the kind of player that gets you fired if you want to know the truth. Thank God for Isaiah. Hell, even with Isaiah and 5 other pros, they lost to Purdue in the NCAA tournament. But Woodson scored a bunch of points and made a lot of jump shots. He's back as our head coach. He said after the game, I'm the head coach, I've done my job. This is the same guy that when he came here very arrogantly promised, I'm only here to win Big Ten titles and NCAA titles. Indiana's never competed for either. This is like a whole insane world of sports we got going on right now, and I'm here for it. I am. You got to keep Mike Woodson at Indiana because of the content. You got to fire Troy Weaver immediately. Like, Troy Weaver is so bad at his job that fans, little indiscriminate fans, are yelling at him, and he's so insecure he's losing his mind. The whole sports world is out of whack, and I'm going to go through it one after the other, after the other, after the other. Next, the LSU, South Carolina women. Now, here's what you got to understand about women. Women basketball players, South Carolina, LSU, are like little thug guys. They act like they're little thugs, little mini micro thugs. Man, I'm ghetto. Now, good for you. I'm ghetto. Isn't that what Angel Reese said? I'm ghetto. Really? You're ghetto. You're an idiot. Little mini micro thugs is what women should come up with their own stuff. All women basketball players do is see what dudes do, and then they do the same thing. And then you got these clowns that are playing women's basketball that are little mini micro thugs. I mean, honest to God, it's embarrassing. How about you just go Caitlin Clark or that girl from South Carolina or at USC? Holy is she good? I'm looking around. I forgot about her. USC women's basketball, this is going to be absolute blasphemy. Caitlin Clark's the best women's basketball player right now. But USC women's basketball has the best women's basketball player in the future coming up, if not now, very soon. Very, very, very soon. I mean to tell you, she is so damn good. I think it's USC. She's a freshman. She's insanely good. I think her name is Mackenzie Forrest, but I might be wrong. Holy cow. I hope she doesn't act. No, that's not her. I hope she doesn't act like a mini micro thug. I hope she doesn't go the route of these USC, LSU women. All right, so they get in a fight. And Big Mama knocks over some girls from LSU. This is after Angel Reese has been pulling hair. Pulling hair is like a traditional woman thing, right? It's unbelievable. I'm pulling hair. Angel Reese is like pulling hair, poking eyes, but she's from the hood. My ass. Little mini micro thug girls that act like dudes little thug dudes, have always amused me. Anyway, Big Mama from USC is cleaning house. Big Mamas, boom, 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 they're fighting. A dad, this is how idiotic women's basketball can be. A dad and a couple others tried, but a dad jumped over the scorer's table to get involved in the fracas on the court. This is how whacked out these women are. It's insanity. But anyway, there was something good out of it, and that good is Dawn Staley, who is the original little mini micro thug. But Kim Mulkey did what Kim Mulkey does. Kim Mulkey's an idiot. Like, Kim Mulkey's a little mini micro thug-ish, wearing feathers. So they brawl, they fight, and then the coaches got to discuss. Here's Kim Mulkey's dumbass discussing the brawl in the SEC among the mini micro thug ladies of the SEC.
No one wants to be a part of that. No one wants to see that ugliness. But I can tell you this. I wish she would have pushed Angel Reese. Don't push a kid. You 6'8", don't push somebody that little. That was uncalled for, in my opinion. Let those two girls that were jawing, let them go at it.
Yeah, let them two that was jawing go at it. Nope. Angel Reese is a little punk. She's a great player, I guess. But she limped off. She didn't help her teammates. So she put out a statement basically being embarrassed because she's supposed to be ghetto. I get a kick out of all of it, man. I do. I get a kick. Like, Juju Watkins is the girl's name, and she's freaking good. Like, she's really good. She's from USC. But anyway, so Kim Mulkey continues to be an idiot. She just does. Now, the original little mini micro thug, Dawn Staley, you've seen her in every movie. Like, I'm watching The Killing, and they got all these little street kids. And one of them got killed the other day. I'm not very happy about it. It's on a TV show. But anyway, Dawn Staley's the original little mini micro thug, but she handled it like a human being. Dawn Staley was awesome in this. Here's Dawn Staley.
But I'm going to say this. Fly J came to me after the game, right after the game, and she just apologized and said she's not that type of player. And I really appreciate that. It's just something that somebody won't ever hear if I didn't say anything. And she's not. She's a really good person. Things just got escalated. I'll take responsibility for what happened from our side of it, which is we don't, we talk about these things as a team, and we try to, as much as possible, express to them how not to react in those type of situations. But real time is real time. And I know that, anybody, Camilla, as well as the other 4 or 5 players that were ejected, I know if they had a chance to do it all over again, they would do it differently. But now we have that. I just don't want the people who are tuning in to women's basketball see that and think, that is our game, because it isn't. Our game is a really beautiful thing. And to be quite honest, this is a part of it now. So we have to fix it, and we have to move on.
Yeah, I mean, good for Dawn Staley. Good for Dawn Staley. Dawn Staley literally just sat there and said, this is bad for the sport. I mean, I don't know if it's bad for the sport. I don't know if it's good for the sport, but I'll tell you what's really bad for the sport is the fact that you got daddies jumping over the sideline to get involved in the fracas. I mean, it's unbelievable. A couple guys came right out of the student section or the fan section or the parent section to jump into the fracas. What the hell is that? Like, honest to God, I knew this was coming too. When I see all these women acting like dudes, I knew this was coming, and that's exactly what it is. And you want even more? I am on the DEI hires that are women broadcasters, right? The women doing the game didn't know the rules. They're like, well, everybody's suspended. Blah, blah. No, they didn't know the rules. 6 players were ejected. Benches were ejected. They didn't know the rules. I got texts from a bunch of people that broadcast, including one woman, who said, this is unbelievable. These women did not know the rules. Now, I want you to think about that. So you got a broadcast that has little mini micro thugs fighting each other, a daddy and more coming jumping out of the stands, and broadcasters that don't know the rules. Had no idea. That's unbelievable. God bless you, women's basketball. You need some stuff like this to keep it going. I mean, you're not going to have Caitlin Clark or Juju Watson to stand by. Juju Watson's really good. Whoo, Juju Watson. I think they should put a one-on-one match, freshman versus senior, One-on-one, Caitlin Clark versus Juju Watson pay-per-view. I might actually buy that. I might. I don't know. Not saying I would. Anyway, long story short, freaking awesome. All right, this is odd. A former SEC quarterback and Vanderbilt alum Mo Hasan recently took to social media claiming that the Italian Mob was paying players in the SEC to fix games during his time in the conference. All right. Now, before I go to the audio, let me explain something to you. Back the game that crushed my soul, we won. We came back against Toledo. We were down like 15 or 17 and a half. We were getting killed. We come back and win. Crowd rushed the court and hurt my player. That game later on went in front of a federal judge in Detroit for point shaving. Turns out they did. Before the game, there was a player named Sammy Vajegas. We actually recruited Sammy. He was a kid that came from like South America somewhere. He lived with a judge in Lime, Ohio. Sammy was a really good player. Before the game, my assistant coach, Artie Papella, is like, man, look at Sammy Vajegas' first and second half splits. He actually said it to me before the game. Long story short, Sammy's making everything. I mean, he's making everything. Long story long, second half against us, Sammy Vajegas made nothing. We came back and won. Next thing you know, a number of players, both football and basketball, were in front of a judge and got convicted for point shaving. They had a backup running back, a quarterback who ended up playing in the NFL, actually, and I'm not going to say his name because it's unfair because he got cleared. He was brought in front. I thought to myself, I can understand the quarterback, but what the hell does this backup running back have to do with it? Well, then I found out. He was the recruiter. He was the guy that got others to go along with the scheme, and this was the mob in Detroit. Now, I don't know what kind of mob. You got to understand. There's all kind of mobs. This guy had kind of a Middle Eastern accent tint to him. It wasn't the Italian mob. So this kind of stuff has been going on, and people need to know. Right now at Temple, we've got some weird, very, very weird gambling lines that they're investigating. We saw what happened with the Alabama baseball coach, Bohannon, who got fired for sending gambling to a guy in Cincinnati to make bets. This is coming. This is coming to your school. This is coming. Just like an illegal immigrant crisis is coming to your community, my community. It's coming. We open the floodgates. Not we, because I said don't do it. But anyway, the floodgates are open. You will see gambling situations. We always have had gambling situations. We had one at Arizona State basketball, Boston College back in the day. Northwestern had one of all places. But you're going to see more and more. So I'm giving you that background because I want you to say, okay, so here's a quarterback named Mo Hasan. He's saying the SEC is influenced by the Italian mob. Here's Mo.
I was approached at Jason Aldean's bar in Nashville by the Italian mob.
What?
To fix football games.
I'll be
Like-
honest, this sounds like a story
like
that
the mafia?
I do not need to be a part of.
I went to get drinks. And so I'm alone right now. I'm not with my friend group. He comes up to me.
Wait, he knew who you were.
Yes.
This is already a bad start.
He offered me
He
$300,000.
offered you $300,000.
All right.
He said for something like this, my clients, $250 to $300K for a game.
The Italian mob offered you $300K to do
Can we
what?
stop saying that?
He said we regularly talk to guys in your position about fixing games. He said he named guys in the SEC who I don't want to say their names because they're in the NFL right now, and that's a bad look.
deal?
It's a bad deal. But University of Alabama, I will tell you that.
Holy crap.
He said almost every game in the SEC is
This
rigged.
too much for me.
Well, people are saying it's hard to fix games from the bench, and they're right. I mean, the guy threw 17 total passes in 7 games. Then he transferred to Southern Cal. Now, here's the thing that I look at. I go back to experiences. Look, they're not necessarily going to approach the star. They'll approach this guy because they believe he has influence over teammates. Now, I don't know. Maybe he was going to start the next game. Maybe it was going to be the one time in his life he got in a game. He appeared in 7 games. He did not play in 2022, his last year for USC. Now, obviously, walking off the field, he did something here. So I'm not going to just discard this because I have experience with this. But the truth of the matter is, I'll believe it. And people like Danny Cannell, people like my friend Greg McElroy and others are poo-pooing it, and I don't blame them. I can see how it's poo-pooed. But I had always federal investigators talk to my team about point shaving. Actually, I showed them a picture of the longtime radio host of Bowling Green basketball from before I was there. The guy he was the radio voice, being led away in cuffs, and I showed him his Bowling Green championship ring from the early 80s. So I was kind of diligent about it, and I paid attention to this. It's not always the star that gets plucked. It's the guy that has influence on the team. And I've seen it for myself. I was actually the coach of a game that the University of Toledo fixed. And Sammy Vajegas, he did a little bit of jail time. He did a little bit. Now, these guys got off, and somehow, some way, Sammy Vajegas is like coaching. But charged with point shaving. I'm just telling you, man, this is more prevalent than you think. And the one thing that I would question here is this: the Italian mob. Really? I mean, I'm a big mob fan. I read books. I mean, I've read every book you can on every type of mob, whether it's the Irish mob, the Russian mob. Okay. You know, that's an easy one. That's almost too easy. Look, if the guy said it, I'm going to believe it. I can see how it happened, even though the guy was a bench warmer. But brace for it. It's happening and happening and happening. I'm not saying it's happening in every SEC game or Big Ten game or MAC game or whatever, but it is happening. There's no reason to think it hasn't. It's happened before. Now gambling is legal. Now people can go and make a $5,000 bet on DraftKings. And now it's more open. It's more accepted. Now, point shaving isn't, but gambling as a whole is. So what do you think's going to happen? It's no different than illegal immigrants. Now that it's accepted that we're going to let half a million people into our country, you know it's coming to your community. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. And I'm not sure I did a great job of explaining it, but you guys are smart. You'll figure it out. Ryan Clark. Ryan Clark is constant fodder for our show. There are some people that just give us the goods. Ryan Clark gives us the goods basically because I don't like him. Basically because Ryan Clark said, yeah, I don't like Sage Steele's politics, so I'm not going on air with her. Then, of course, he backed off. I don't care. Okay. And I think he's bad at his job. He's a philosopher. My ass. He's an ex-football player that was pretty good. Played on really good teams with a great culture. He's a good-looking, articulate guy. So he shows up well on TV. And he has an opinion. But Ryan Clark is a fraud. And here's the deal. He is a coddled hack at ESPN. ESPN is afraid. You know, you got all those white men and women that care about one thing and one thing only. Their stock options. They do. You think I'm lying? You're crazy. I know them. I know people that are good friends with them. I'm like, why won't they comment on that? You think those guys want to lose their stock options? You think those guys want to risk their 401ks? You're out of your mind. So they coddle. They coddle the African American. The African Americans can do whatever they want at ESPN. And it's kind of a shit show, if you want to know the truth, in a lot of ways in the background. See, you got to understand something. It used to be fun. You sit there in the green room. You got all kind of different people, man. You got white, you got black, you got great players. You know, I remember not Paul Pierce. Somebody had a bodyguard. I don't think I was there when Paul Pierce was there. Yeah, I think maybe I was. I don't know. I can't remember. Somebody had a bodyguard and let me like, hey, man, you guys all right? Think someone's going to get you here on the worldwide leader? I remember sitting there with that idiot Brendan Hayward. the dumbest human being alive. Actually, the laziest human being alive. I went to go see him in high school. He ran his left. Actually, I went to go see his teammate, Vincent Witt, and his coach goes, look at this. This is going to be the best center in the country, and look at this clown. Literally. Anyway, so it used to be fun. Now it's a shit show. Now it's ridiculous. It's absolutely absurd what goes on behind the scenes at ESPN. And Ryan Clark is a big part of it because Ryan Clark is entitled. So listen to this. Ryan Clark now, who's talked openly about money. I want more money. I always want to be respected. It's a non-negotiable with me. I try to reciprocate the same through the way I treat others in work. That's what my new contract with ESPN was all about. I didn't need to feel loved, and contract details would dictate my work there. I wanted to agree to something that gave me a heart of gratitude walking into a building each day. So I worked for that. I stood on that, and here we are. I feel so blessed for my progression. I got a lot of what I wanted, but certainly not all. It was a reminder, you ain't him yet. So the goal remains the same. Do right and kill everything. The energy is different, but the grind is now. See y'all everywhere. Jesus. Got a little video of this idiot, too. Here you go. Oh, well, Ryan Clark had a ESPN camera crew following him, and they went out to the lake or the ocean where he's looking out dreamily, and he's talking about respect, and he's talking about all of the things that he deserved. Looky here. Let's get a camera crew to follow Ryan Clark. Hey, man. Hey, Norby. Stephanie Drewley. Ryan wants a camera crew to follow him around. Is he African-American? Yeah, it's Ryan Clark. Who? Ryan Clark, you know, the guy that, oh, God, yes. Give him what he wants. Yes. And does he need a new suit? Does he need a mock turtleneck? Does he need a dickie? Does he need to look serious? Does he need a new makeup girl? Yes. I mean, the white dudes at ESPN are doing what I do every day around 9:30, 10 o'clock. They're crapping themselves over Ryan effing. Look at him. Let's get a little camera crew. Yeah, show me how hard I work. Look, I've got my luggage. Look at me. I put my own bags in. I get in my own seat. I'm deep thinking. What a bunch of bullshit. And I'm here for it. I'm here for all of Ryan Clark's bullshit. I think we all should be here for Ryan Clark's bullshit because it's so obvious, it's so ridiculous, and it shows how needy and pathetic Ryan Clark is. But if you think Ryan Clark is needy and pathetic, oh, any woman that you see at ESPN is 10 times now that Sage is gone. Holy hell, these women. But maybe not. Maybe Ryan Clark is needier. I've said this about Stephen A. Smith. You know, word on the street that I get from his producer, who, by the way, owned a porn company. Yeah, that's right. I love this woman. We were hole up in the Doubletree. A snowstorm was coming in. I was staying at the Doubletree, which is across the street and down the road a little bit. Anyway, so ESPN put all their employees up. I'm having a beer, minding my own business. Couple people come up. They do what most people do. Double D, we love you. Hey, sit down. Let's have a drink. Turns out they're Stephen A. Smith's producer. I don't know if it was when he was doing his radio show. It must have been. All of a sudden, we get talking. What do you do? What do you do? You know what? On the side, I own a porn company. You what? Now, of course, you got me rocking and rolling, right? But by all accounts, according to them, he's a joy to work with. Ryan Clark is not a joy to work with. Ryan Clark is needy. Ryan Clark is actually kind of a little batch. Hey, film crew, follow me around for a day. Now, if you follow me around for a day, it's going to be boring, but it's not going to be self-involved. You're going to see me hanging out here. You're going to see me going in about, 10 minutes to use the restroom. You're going to see me doing nothing, driving to my next show. But it ain't going to be needy. It isn't going to be pensive. And don't for 1 second tell me that African Americans need that. Don't for 1 single second tell me, well, you've got white privilege. Yeah, my ass. Ryan Clark was going to get a contract at ESPN no matter what. Didn't have anything to do with how he went. It had to do with how he looked, period. He's okay. I mean, I understand that some Emmys gave him an award for something, which is DEI number 2, because there's not a chance in hell he's the best studio analyst. He's not even close. There's nobody that ever said, hey, look, I got to turn on my TV to see what Ryan Clark has to say. That's my definition of a good host. I'll give you an example. When I would drive around for ESPN and, going to games, I always drove, unless it was Minnesota or Penn State, something stupid like that. But what I would do would be I would turn on the radio, flash around, and if I heard Rex Ryan, who was the coach at one point of the Jets, was going to be on a guest of the show, I listened. I did. If I heard Kornheiser on the radio, I listened. If Ryan Clark was coming on or Stephen A. Smith was coming on, I ain't listening. Now, I know I got to balance that white with black because in this society, that's what we got to do. But I really can't, because the number of people I stop and listen to that aren't my friends, like Seth Greenberg or Fran Fraschilla or LaFonso Ellis there, see what I did there? If they come on, then you know what? I would stop and listen. But Ryan Clark, I don't need to get yelled at by Stephen A. Smith. I don't need to hear stupid from Ryan Clark. I don't. But good for Ryan Clark and good for ESPN. ESPN is giving in to its talent. Isn't that what we all want? Don't we want our networks to give in to the talent? Hey, we got some crazy. Look, I love Danny Hurley. I'm skipping ahead, fellas. I think Danny Hurley is freaking great. And I'll tell you what I like about Danny Hurley. Everywhere he goes, fans know he's nuts. At least he seems like he's nuts on the sideline, so they want to challenge him. And everywhere he goes, Danny Hurley isn't afraid to challenge back. I loved it. That's who I was in the MAC. I had one guy in a sweater. I go, come back here and I'll beat your ass. So he came back there, and a cop that's following me like, Dan, what are you doing? Well, here's Danny Hurley going at a fan at Providence. Here he is.
Come here. You'll get hurt.
I love it. I don't kind of sort of like it. I 1,000% love it. See, fans think they can yell whatever they want to yell at you. Fans think that they can come at you. Fans think that, you know what, you're on the court, you're fair game. And maybe to a certain extent you are. But I got to tell you, fans need to be very careful because the line's getting blurred. Now, I don't know if Danny Hurley's tough. I don't know if Danny Hurley's fake tough. He was a good player. Played in the Big East, pretty tough league. Played for a father that was pretty tough. He's from Jersey City. I'm guessing Danny Hurley's really tough. No idea. You know what? I love that I'm past that age. I think I told you all this. My wife, when I was in an incident, said, hey, look, there was a day you were tough, but today ain't it at 61 years old. And she's right. We all think we're tough, but Danny Hurley's still young enough. I love the fact that Danny Hurley is tough on his team. He wins, and he's unabashedly not afraid to come back at people that are unabashedly not afraid to come at him. The difference, though, is this. Here's Duke. Duke is playing North Carolina. Duke gets swept by North Carolina, and amazingly enough, Kyle Filipowski not only isn't dead, not only played in the game, but did what Duke white guys have been doing for centuries. Not centuries, decades. Going back to 92, when Christian Laettner stopped on Aminu Timberlake's chest in the legendary Duke-Kentucky game. That Laettner hit the game winner. You know, fast forward to every white dude that's ever played at Duke acting like an idiot. Here is Duke fans before the game. Listen to this. Oh, this is after the game. You know, one of the things that we didn't show there, I was hoping we would, was before the game, Duke's fans were not only taunting North Carolina's R.J. Davis as he warmed up, but one yelled out, "I want to kill you." There was all kind of crap about their girlfriends, their mothers, their families. Now, you got to understand, little Dukies are entitled little pussies. They always have been. They always will be. Not the players, the fans. I mean, just look at them. Just look at them. They're ugly people. They really are. You would think that Duke would have, like, great-looking people, good-looking, No, they're ugly people. They just are. And they're not ugly because of how they look. They're ugly because how they react when things don't go their way. I guess I should say they're typical people. Typical people, well, they love to be loved. They love to taunt you. But when it comes back on them, they can't handle it. See, that's the beauty of me here. When it comes back on me, I just go back at you. I don't throw things. But here's the deal. We always knew Duke was like this. Always. I mean, how can you not look on that sideline and see Coach Krzyzewski defending Grayson Allen for all his stupidity, defending Leitner for stomping? Now you got John Shire. His entire fan base acted like complete dumbasses from before the game until after the game. Now, here's the deal. John Shire also had a player named Kyle Filipowski, who went from the dead of being touched by a fan at Wake Forest to all of a sudden tripping a player in game. We'll see what happens. And it started with the nasty taunting, the awful taunting, the "we're going to kill you" taunting, stuff about your mother. And it ended with that, what you just saw, throwing stuff on the court. You know what? And in between, a Duke player did what a Duke player does, which is trip people.